the trader you become. Accountability changes the trader. Every trader has experienced this moment. A trade finishes. The chart is reviewed, and almost immediately, the mistake becomes obvious. The stop loss shouldn't have been moved. The late entry shouldn't have been taken. The revenge trade shouldn't have happened. Looking back, the right decision seems clear, so the trader tells themselves, "I'll do better tomorrow." Tomorrow comes. The market opens. A similar situation appears, and somehow, the same decision happens again. Why? Perhaps the problem isn't that the trader doesn't know what to do. Perhaps the problem is something much deeper. Perhaps improvement doesn't begin with more knowledge. Perhaps it begins with accountability. Not accountability for the outcome. Accountability for the decisions. Chapter 1. Accountability isn't self-criticism. For some traders, accountability can sound like criticism, being harder on themselves, feeling guilty after mistakes, calling themselves undisciplined, becoming frustrated after another losing day, but perhaps that's not accountability at all. That's self-judgment. Self-criticism asks, "What's wrong with me?" Accountability asks, "What decision did I make?" Those are very different questions. One attacks the person, the other examines the decision. And decisions can be improved. Imagine two traders, both move their stop loss after the trade. The first trader says, "I'm terrible at trading." The second trader says, "I chose to move my stop." One statement judges identity. The other identifies behavior. Only one of them creates an opportunity to improve, because a person can't deliberately practice being less terrible. But they can deliberately practice respecting the original stop. Real accountability isn't about becoming harsher. It's about becoming more honest, not with the outcome, with the decision. Chapter 2. The market doesn't make decisions. One of the easiest habits to develop in trading is quietly giving the market responsibility for decisions that belonged to the trader. The market stopped me out. The market tricked me. The market was too volatile. The market made me panic. The market certainly creates uncertainty. It creates movement. It creates opportunities. It creates losses. But the market doesn't make decisions. The trader does. And perhaps that's what accountability really means. Not taking responsibility for everything that happened. Taking responsibility for the decisions that were yours to make. The market decided where price went. The trader decided whether to enter. The trader decided where to place the stop. The trader decided how much to risk. The trader decided whether to move the stop. The trader decided whether to overtrade. The trader decided whether to follow the plan. Those decisions belong to the trader. The market doesn't. That's an important distinction, because accountability isn't asking, "How could I have controlled the market?" It asks, "Which parts of this were within my control?" Perhaps it was the entry. Perhaps it was the position size. Perhaps it was moving the stop. Perhaps it was taking one more trade after the plan said to stop. Those decisions were always available. And because they're also available to improve. Without accountability, improvement depends on the market. With accountability, improvement begins with the trader. Chapter 3. Moving the stop is postponing accountability. For many traders, this can be one of the hardest moments in trading. The stop has already been placed. The risk has already been accepted. The trade was entered because the setup made sense. Now price approaches the stop. Nothing about the market has changed. Only one thing has changed. Discomfort has increased. In that moment, moving the stop can feel reasonable. Perhaps the market just needs a little more space. Perhaps the trader isn't actually wrong. Perhaps the move will still happen. But something else is quietly happening. The trader isn't only moving the stop. The trader is postponing accountability. When the stop was placed, the trader had already answered an important question. If price reaches this level, my trade idea is no longer valid. Moving the stop changes that answer. Not because the market changed, because accepting the original decision became emotionally difficult. The market doesn't know the stop was moved, but the trader knows. And over time, those small negotiations begin changing something much bigger. The relationship the trader has with their own decisions. Every time accountability is postponed, the trader teaches themselves that today's decisions can always be changed tomorrow, until eventually, every difficult moment becomes another negotiation. And that's when consistent execution quietly begins to disappear. Chapter 4. Accountability begins before the trade. Many traders believe accountability begins after the trade, when it's time to journal, when it's time to review, when it's time to analyze mistakes. But perhaps accountability begins much earlier. Perhaps it begins before the order is ever placed. Imagine two traders preparing to enter exactly the same setup. Both identify the same entry. Both identify the same stop loss. Both understand the risk. But before entering, one trader pauses and asks a simple question. Am I willing to accept this loss if my stop gets hit? It's a simple question, but it's one that changes everything. Because if the answer is no, perhaps the trade isn't ready. The position size may be too large. The trader may already be emotionally attached to the outcome. Or perhaps the stop isn't where it truly belongs. Professional traders don't become accountable after the trade loses. They become accountable before the trade begins. By placing the stop, they're also accepting the possibility that the market may prove their idea wrong. But accountability doesn't end there. It continues throughout the trade. Before the trade, the trader owns the preparation, the setup, the position size, the risk. During the trade, the trader owns every decision that follows. Whether to move the stop, whether to chase another entry, whether to increase risk, whether to follow the plan when emotions become uncomfortable, and after the trade, the trader owns the review, not asking, why did the market do this? But asking, what can I learn from the decisions I made? Perhaps that's what accountability really is. Not something that happens after a mistake, but something that quietly exists before, during, and after every trade. Chapter 5. Accountability makes deliberate practice possible. The previous video explored deliberate practice, building one capability at a time, giving one behavior enough attention to observe, to remember, to evaluate, and deliberately improve. But deliberate practice quietly depends on something else: accountability. Because before a behavior can be improved, it first has to be owned. Imagine a trader reviewing the day. The stop was moved. The trade became a much larger loss. Without accountability, the review might sound like this: the market was too volatile. It was just a stop hunt. I would have been right if I had given it a little more room. Notice what happened. The focus remained on the market. Now imagine a different review. I moved my stop. I ignored my plan. I wasn't willing to accept the original risk. The focus has shifted, not toward self-criticism, toward ownership. And something important happens the moment ownership appears. The behavior becomes visible. Now there's something real to improve. Not becoming more disciplined, not becoming more confident, something specific. Respecting the original stop, waiting for confirmation, ending the trading day as planned. Deliberate practice can only improve a behavior that the trader is willing to own. That's why accountability matters. It transforms reflection into learning, learning into deliberate practice, and deliberate practice into capability. Perhaps that's why accountability changes the trader, not because it eliminates mistakes, but because it allows every mistake to become something that can be deliberately improved. Chapter 6. Accountability creates freedom. At first, accountability can feel heavy. It sounds like responsibility. It sounds like admitting mistakes. It sounds uncomfortable. But perhaps accountability creates something unexpected: freedom. When traders stop blaming the market, they stop waiting for the market to change. When they stop blaming luck, they stop waiting for better luck. When they stop blaming conditions, they stop waiting for perfect conditions. Improvement becomes something they can influence, not because they control the market, but because they control the decisions they bring into the market. There's something incredibly freeing about that, because every trading day becomes another opportunity, not to control the outcome, but to improve the quality of the decisions. And that's something the market can never take away. Chapter 7. Accountability changes the trader. Many traders hope confidence will change them. Others believe experience will. Some wait for the perfect strategy, or the perfect indicator, or the perfect market conditions. But perhaps lasting improvement begins somewhere much quieter, with ownership. The moment a trader stops asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and begins asking, "What decision did I make?" something changes. Not all at once, not overnight, but one decision at a time, one review at a time, one deliberately practiced capability at a time. Accountability doesn't make the market easier. It doesn't eliminate uncertainty. It doesn't remove losses. What it changes is the relationship the trader has with those experiences. Losses become lessons. Mistakes become feedback. Review becomes practice. And over time, those repeated acts of ownership begin changing something much deeper: the trader. Final thoughts? Every trader wants to improve. Most search for a better strategy, a better indicator, a better market. But perhaps improvement begins somewhere much simpler, with the willingness to take ownership of today's decisions. Not because every decision will be perfect, but because every decision belongs to the trader making it. Accountability isn't demanding perfection. It isn't criticizing yourself after every mistake. It isn't carrying guilt from one trading day into the next. Accountability is quietly saying, "This decision was mine. And because it was mine, it's also something I can improve." Perhaps that's where lasting confidence begins. Not by avoiding mistakes, but by taking ownership of them. One decision, one capability, one trading day at a time. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, consider subscribing for more videos on trading psychology and trading mindset. I'd also love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What does accountability mean to you as a trader? And if you know another trader who might benefit from this perspective, feel free to share this video with them. And until next time, keep learning. Not just about the markets, but about the trader you're becoming.